Hey everyone, it's Julie Caraccio. Welcome to Our New Earth, assisting the new generation. I'm excited. I haven't done one of these broadcasts in a while. Took a break, went to vacation, but gosh, we all have some clearing to do. We need to keep vibrating higher, letting go of the junk because there's more lights coming in. We got to release that darkness. So once again, we're here. We've got lots of good stuff to talk about. We're going to be talking about intuitive mothers today and working with your sensitive kids. Lots of good stuff, and I'm really excited. But first, I'd like to tell you about Tamara. Tamara holds a BA and an MA degree in elementary education and is a certified angel card reader, clairvoyant, who works with the angelic realm. In 2009, she had a spiritual awakening experience that happened to her in the middle of the night. She explains it as if someone turned on all the lights and electricity, the highest volume in her home. It took her several months to begin to understand what had happened, and now today she's helping and supporting other people who are having these same experiences. In 2011, she created a blog called Intuitive Mothers, as well as a Facebook group page called Intuitive Mothers that supports women and their children with their spiritual awakenings. She works with families and children who are clairvoyant and highly sensitive to their environment. She's a married mother of 4 children and offers techniques on how to connect and support families to their spiritual inner voice. Currently, she is teaching and offering angel card readings as a service to support those who have had a shift in their lives and are having metaphysical type experiences. She's warm, gentle, and an inspiring teacher. Okay, fantastic. Welcome, Tamara.
Thank you so much. It's nice to meet you, Julie.
We have connected on Facebook, and I can't remember how, one of these programs, and I think just it's so great. The one thing that I love about social media is meeting wonderful people like you. So let's get started. So talk about intuitive mothers, what maybe that means to you, or I'd like to talk about maybe your experience with people, and also if someone's watching, how they can access their intuition a little more.
Sure. Well, intuitive mothers really didn't come about until I had my spiritual awakening, and I had this increased sensitivity that, like you had mentioned, literally overnight. And it took me about 3 months to even leave my home. I was picking up on angels and spirits and other people's energy and understanding what was happening to me, because I felt like, oh my gosh, I've gone crazy. I'm an educated person, gone to college, I'm a teacher. What happened here, you know? So, and I felt like after that 3-month period, I felt like I can't be the only one going through this. People are probably going through this and not talking about it because they think they're crazy too. And I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to have 2 women come into my life to help support me, and I knew intuitively not to go to a doctor, but I knew to go to a psychic friend of mine. They would be the only people that I felt wouldn't judge me and put me on medication. So, and it's from that I said, you know what, I have to help other people. I've had 2 beautiful women help me, and if there's any way I can help at least one person, I've done what I set out to do. So I created Intuitive Mothers, and hoping to support not only particularly women, and they don't have to be mothers, but just some, you know, just basically women, and supporting them, because I feel like so often we're not given a voice to support our intuition, and it's part of who we are. So I decided to do that, and from there it kind of just kept rolling, and I met more and more women globally through Facebook. It's allowed me to meet women throughout their whole world, and they're going through the same thing I was. So, and it felt like that message of oneness, which I really promote. And being a mother with children, we also share stories about, hey, my child was picking up on spirits last night. Was yours? You know, what are you doing to help support that? And, you know, so, I mean, we need to be talking about this. Children need to have a voice. And most of all, we need to be supporting one another and loving each other.
Absolutely. Now, you know, some women out there might be watching and feel like, you know, you hear women's intuition, mother's intuition a lot, even if people aren't spiritual perhaps, you know, but that might believe that because, yes, after being a mother. But what would you say to someone who hesitates in trusting their intuition? Because I think there are a lot of us, again, mothers or not, that might ignore our intuition.
Right. I would suggest being open-minded. And sometimes you have to take a leap of faith and read something out of your comfort zone. And start to question things. Don't be afraid to ask the question, why? If you've been taught something, whether it's your religion or your upbringing, whatever belief system that you were taught, I would start with the question, well, why? And that kind of sets and awakens your intuition inside of you. And then you're like, oh yeah, why do they tell us that? And let me go research that. I think you have to be, there's a willingness within you that starts to steamroll it with the question why. I think that's very important. And I think you also need to start researching on your own and not have someone else tell you what to think. You need to go figure out for yourself what is right for you and your feeling. I think feelings is the key word there. We need to discuss our feelings, our intuition, and I think sometimes we're so suppressed on that because we're not supposed to be, especially in America, I feel like that's not embraced, and it should be. So that's a good way to start, I would think.
I believe that we have all the answers within. It is just listening to that, and I believe that people like yourself can help facilitate that. But, you know, honestly, you just have to follow what your heart believes and trust that that's right. And, you know, I was talking with someone the other day. I'm doing something that I need to do. I'm following my heart. But other people around me aren't supporting that. And, you know, and that's one, and maybe talk a little bit about that because, you know, with a lot of the conversation, I'm not a mother. Hopefully soon. We're working it, got babies around. So I feel like you've got a lot to learn. So go hang out at this group. But you know, what would you say to someone who, you know, their intuition is saying do this, but they have naysayers around?
Yeah, and that's intimidating. It's scary. I'm going through it every single day. I am a teacher. I do not, in my environment that I work in, I do not share who I am or what I do. I consider it very private because I know people won't take to it very well. They're not ready for it, and I understand that. So you really have to use discernment. That's partly why I did create Intuitive Mothers, to help more support come, you know, so we can talk about it. For me, I use my intuition every day, but I don't use the language that people would associate with it. And I maneuver very carefully around that. It's, I call it a gift. I don't know what it is, but, you know, I know a way to say it without having to say it. And I think we all do it. We just don't realize it or call it intuition, you know. I think if you have kindness in your heart and love and support for one another, that's all it is. It's nothing deeper than that. Now, if I see someone who's truly struggling and I can pick up intuitively, I would take them to the side and say, you know, what's going on? Let's talk about it. And I think we need to do that for each other. And sometimes, and I've learned this is the greatest gift, is taking that leap and sharing who you are. And this is what I'm doing today. I feel like I'm coming out and sharing, I talk to angels. And from that, I realized that other people are having that experience too. So when we share, we realize we're not alone.
Absolutely. And as you share, then that's going to allow someone who watches this to share whatever it is that's important for you. And that way it's not, I wouldn't call it taking off the mask, but I think the more we honor ourselves, it has a collective response. It allows others to do that as well. And if, you know, I live in the South, which talk about people not open to stuff. I mean, yeah. I recommended someone to talk about yoga, and people were like, no, that's, you know, and I was like, wow, because to me, I considered yoga, that's something that can't be controversial, but for some people in this area is. But I think with you taking that step, the more people are willing to talk about this, you know, it just allows it to get out. And I'm just going to share a story, and I would love for you to share an example, because I think it's so important. The intuition has saved my life before. And a couple of times when I've had, because I was like, you're crazy, you're hearing voices, like, what's going on? Because my intuitiveness is clairaudient and clairescience. I think I said that right. I never pronounced that correctly. But I was in Hawaii. I was on vacation, and a lot of the time I was by myself. And I was on the beach enjoying, I heard get up, and I ignored it. I heard get up, and finally, literally, it felt like a scream, get up now, and it scared the hell out of me. So I stood up because I was on the beach by myself. There were people ways away around. I turned around, and I see this guy standing half behind a palm tree looking at me, and just, you got that heebie-jeebie vibe.
Oh.
I'm like, all right, you need to just mosey on down to where there are people. So I did that. So the next day, I had been staying with someone I knew. I heard on the news that a woman had been raped on the beach where I was. Now, you will never convince me to this day that I believe that that would have been me had I not listened to my intuition. But,
Right.
still even there, it had to scream for me. And still today, as much as I know to follow it, sometimes I'm like, well, really? You might have listened to it? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I've never had an experience like that. I think that's amazing, and I'm so excited that you listened to your intuition and you were able to avoid such a tragic experience. I feel very sorry for that lady who did not. So, for me, I just feel like, goodness, I just feel like I almost feel like I have to share that. This is the importance of why we need to teach our children today how to listen to our intuition. And they already naturally do this, but I think we need to nurture it in a way that keeps that voice alive and listen to it, like you said, and keeping track of that and knowing when to talk about it with your child. So, it's remarkable. I use every single day before I even get up in the morning is I ask for protection. And I ask to listen and to hear. And if I can't hear, give me the red flags, show me my stomach area, because I'm an empath too, so I feel it. And I think the more we talk about this, Julie, I think the more and more people are going to go, oh, that's what that is. And they just don't understand what it is,
Well, that was a great, I love that you wake up every day and say that, but can you maybe give an example, because you're in your solar plexus and your stomach, I think that's a great one. Can you maybe share some other ways that our intuition tries to talk to us that people might not be aware of?
Sure. Well, basically what it is, it's really simple. It doesn't sound simple yet, but you'll get it. It goes throughout our entire body, and you think in terms of our 5 senses. It's extending out our senses. So, for example, I use this example on my website. When I was baking chocolate chip cookies, and I was using a recipe that my grandmother used to make, and I instantly got this nasty taste of smoke in my mouth, and I am not a smoker at all. But that was her way of coming through saying, I see you making my cookies, thank you. And so it's the small things that comes through with your senses. Another thing is some of us might smell perfume. Some of us might even feel like something is touching their hand, and they're looking around. There's nothing around. There's no bugs or anything. Another way might be spirit's pretty funny. One night I had gotten up and someone who was turning on and off all my lights and electricity in my house. And that was the loved one coming through saying hi. Dreams. Pay attention to your dreams. Start asking, why did I have that? Start researching, getting books. I highly recommend doing virtue books. They will help you awaken your intuition and it's a practice. It takes daily practice. I always begin my day with prayer. Thinking positively, and that in itself is your intuition. Your stomach, if you pay attention, if you're feeling kind of queasy, if you're not feeling not right, then you need to look around the environment within you. Where are you? Pay attention to that. Maybe someone around you, and get away from it. So you have to pay attention to your body symptoms, your environment, and your thoughts. And that will help you get on the right track to your intuition. And you have to practice every single day.
Yeah, it's like anything. It's a muscle that needs to be exercised.
Yeah, you have to do. And sometimes I get lazy and I pay for it, and then I don't feel very well. So, so you have to, I always picture the best thing, at least for me has been, Julie, is to place myself in like an egg-shaped cocoon, I call in Michael, Archangel Michael, Metatron, Gabriel, Raphael, any angels that you feel comfortable with, or whatever your belief system is. Call on, I don't care if you call on flowers, whatever is making you feel better, you do it, and it cleanses your body, your chakras, and everything, and it grounds you. If you do that every day, and I actually do it twice a day, I do it in the morning and at night to cover off all the energy. And there's so many techniques. So mine is just one small example of what's out there. So
excellent. So you are a mom raising kids. Let's talk a little bit. I've heard different terms thrown around. My understanding is based on interviewing people, and my research is crystal kids, indigo kids. I know that people divide them up and say if you came in at this time, you're a blah, blah, or whatever. But for the purpose, to me, it just means aware. I like to use the word aware now. I interviewed someone, and they told me why they say aware versus sensitive. But so we've all what I'd call indigo kids. So how are you raising your kids to honor their intuition?
Well, it's pretty fun. They're kind of raising me. I'm not doing anything. They're teaching me what to do. It's from my awakening that has allowed me to see what they're seeing so I can better support them. And I'll give you an example. I have 3 daughters and a son, a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, 6 years old, and 5 years old. And my third child, daughter Quinn, she's very, very intuitive with spirits. So she will see something in the hallway, and before she says a thing to me, I see it too. So I'm able to support her and have her not fear it, but face it. And that's how I support my children. So, and I don't tell them anything. I simply listen. I guide them. And I do support them in protection, and I do support them in not fearing anything, because they have control over their senses, and they're able to feel out their intuition, and I want them to support and nurture that. That's all that I really do. It's very quite simple. I don't push anything on them. I do nurture, and I'll lay out like angel cards or something for them to play with, and I let them figure it out. I lay crystals out. They create with it. And then I do show some techniques, and maybe if they lay something out, I'll say, hey, why don't we try it this way? But I don't ever tell them what to do.
That's amazing. I have some follow-up with that, but we have a question
that
I want to ask you from Janie. She asked, when you say call on your angels, can we call on Jesus as well?
Yes, of course. Absolutely. I love Jesus. I think he's absolutely there with us. I view him as an ascended master, all of these, God, whatever you use and you're comfortable with, absolutely. Yes.
All right, excellent. Thank you for that question, Janie. I want to remind everyone watching and listening, you can ask a question. I am happy to ask it. Now, one thing I want you to talk about that you're doing with your kids, which I was like, we could all benefit from, is teaching them not to fear.
Right.
So now talk a little bit about how you're doing that.
I'm a big fan of, let's see, essential oils help them calm down, such as lavender. And I have friends and intuitive mothers that know better than I would on this. I teach them techniques like when we take a bath at night, I use salt in their bath, and it cleanses their body and their chakras every night. And I explain to them, visualizing everything going and running down your body and cleansing it off and it all going down the drain. We pick angel cards out before bedtime that helps them with protection at night in their dreams, because a lot of these kids are doing night work. So, and what I mean by that is they're working on something on the spiritual realm in order to bring it into our world. And some of it is not so pleasing. So we have to look at our children as if, not that they're children, but they're very old and wise souls. And we have to look at them from that perspective and know that they have a job to do, and we need to support them in that.
I think that's an excellent point. And, I just interviewed someone on Wednesday, and we were talking about all the muck that's coming up. And she said, but if you're bringing all the light in, you got to clear all the negative stuff, and so
Right.
that's part of it. Now, what would you say? Quinn sounds like she's very intuitive, as you mentioned. So, how do you teach your kids? Do you say, okay, just kind of keep this within the house because the child might bully them or taunt them and be like, you're a freak? How do you handle something like that?
I know. I've already experienced that with my 10-year-old, unfortunately. They go to a public school here. I've never said do not share it with somebody. I allow them to use their intuition, and I use the words, how does that feel to you? A lot. And I let them feel it out for them, because if I can't go through their lessons for them, they have to figure it out. It's really hard as a parent. You want to protect them. But it was funny, last year, my two oldest girls, they go to an elementary school, and they were kind of the ringleaders together with their third and second grade classes last year, was to teach everyone the magic of fairies at a public school and during the playground time. And they had ringleaders, and they were being followed, and Karis and Ella, my two girls, were showing everyone the trees around the school, how to talk to the fairies, and sure enough, a lot of kids were following along, and there were maybe 5 kids who were like, "You're crazy! We don't listen to fairies," but they were empowered by seeing the kids that were following them. And they had to deal with those other 5 kids that were not. And that was their lesson. So nowadays, my 10-year-old's getting a little older and more aware, and now I can see her slowly closing it up on the intuition, so I keep it alive at home, unfortunately. But that's just the way our society is. And we're trying to change the education system, and I'm a supporter of Lynn Kristen's 144 schools, so that they can stay awake and alive in that area and are supportive and not alone. So,
well, first of all, you're so wise. I just seriously love that. Just what a great job you're doing with your kids. And I want to hang out with your girls. I want them to come around and show me all the fairies, because I think that would be a lot of fun. Now, what I'm curious about, in that instance, because again, you're around tons of kids, not only because of yours and a teacher, but so not all kids, has it been your observation that not all kids are indigo, for lack of a better word, because have these kids saying to your girls, "You're nuts, what are fairies all about?" Or do you think that that's maybe they've already started the conditioning of maybe their parents or society? What are your thoughts on that?
It's funny, because I think about that often, because I have such an eclectic mix of kids in my classrooms that I'm not a big fan of the labeling, like with indigo and crystal. I feel like we're all getting to a point now where we're all kind of on the same level, and I feel like there's always a kid that comes into the classroom that is the grumpy old man, or the grumpy, it's just like, it doesn't matter what you say or do, he's set in his ways, and I feel like maybe those are the kids and the souls, I should say, that come in that still have some more work to do and learn. I'm not in charge of that energy. They have to figure it out, but everyone else can keep doing what they need to do, and that's what they're doing. I hope that makes sense. Did that make sense?
It absolutely does. But again,
okay.
I interview lots of people, I do lots of research, I read, that's an interest to me, and so I always like to ask, because I'm just plain curious, because again, just reading different things, you say different things, but I think that's really well said, and I love how you are very clear in your boundaries, and especially with your children, because I'm laughing as you're talking, because that's one of the things I know already. I'm working on not being overprotective with my kids, but it's my personality. I mean, someone said to me, what are you protecting your husband from? And I was like, I'm not meaning to protect him. So I appreciate that. You have very clear boundaries, which I think is essential, not only as a parent, but in the work you do.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Because sometimes you don't, as a parent, you always question yourself, but you do the best you can. We all do.
Now, what advice would you have, say, if a parent is out, mom's listening or someone's listening, and they're struggling with, they want to nurture their kids' gifts at home, but maybe to balance that with the outside. I mean, you know, you're really clear with your kids, but they might not be as aware as you are.
Oh, I'm sorry, I lost you a little bit there, Julie.
Oh, that's okay. Are you back now? I see. It looked like you just popped out.
Yeah, I'm here. I think what you're asking me is some techniques to use in the house for the kids. Is that right?
That would, or if you would say, you know, what would happen if a parent confronted you, maybe like your kid's a nut job. They are saying this stuff to my kid. I mean, what would you do?
I would listen, and I would say, I'm so sorry you feel that way. Let's talk about it. And ask why. What is it they're fearing? Because ultimately, what you're doing and what my children are doing is reflecting back what they need to be facing. And that is not always easy. And you may not get them to be successful, and that's not your job. Your job is to hold that space of love and your truth. And what I've been finding within our public schools is there are mothers like me out there. We have them in the public schools. They are very shy. They're very quiet, but you can find them. And you have to look very closely, but they are there. And those are the mothers that I put my children with. And it's a small group, but that's okay. It works. And there are others out there. And there's more and more teachers out there that are more open than we think we are, and that we give them credit for. They know. So we have to really give a little bit and share a little bit to figure out each other and make sure we can support each other.
I think that's so important. And the other thing I do is ask, you know what, I need some support. Can you throw me a bone, universe?
Don't be afraid to ask, and that's why we have Intuitive Mothers on Facebook. It is considered a private group, so you can ask those silly questions and not be judged, and you're supported and loved, and you're not out. And there's no such thing, in my opinion, as a stupid question at all, because we've all been there. So Absolutely. It's okay.
Talk a little bit about, I've actually interviewed Lynn Kristen a couple times, and she was the first interview I did, and people can check those out. But talk a little bit about her 144 education, because I think it's phenomenal what she's doing, and tell us a little bit about that, just so people have an understand there is an alternative, and people are working to change the school system.
Well, it's interesting, because before I had met Lynn Kristen, I do channel writing, and I started working on developing a school for the new children. And I was in the process of doing that, and I came across Lynn. And we started to Skype with each other, and we noticed that we had almost the exact same curriculum. And I went, this is interesting. And I know it was pretty neat, Julie. It was really, I was so proud and honored to meet Lynn. But basically, her schools are the wave of the future. They're hugely important. They need to be supported. They need to be funded, at least getting started in one of them, so people understand and have a visual of what these look like. Because I think a lot of times you can write it down so many times, but people won't understand what this process looks like until it's seen. And we get small examples of it, like, for example, there's some children online now that have gone to homeschooling, and they're having huge successes because they're figuring out what they want to do. They have freedom. They have choice. They already know what they're here to do. And this is what these schools are built and ready to develop to do. And I feel like my support is supporting the parents, so they understand what this is and what it looks like, so then they can embrace Lynn's concept of the 144 schools. So, and I know Lynn could go further and further on what it is, so go check out Lynn.
No, but that's great, and I just think, I love that you guys had you had a curriculum that was almost identical. Now, are you working with her, or are you trying to start something here in the U.S.?
I am working with Lynn. I feel like I'm a co-creator, supporter for Lynn. I would love to develop one here in Arizona as one of the first schools for her. I would be part of the project. The problem has been, it's not so much the problem, but maybe the timing, and also the funding has been what's been holding a lot of it back, unfortunately. So
we'll make that happen. It's coming. You have
it's
to
coming. It's coming.
Trust in divine timing. Now, you brought up something that I love, because a mutual friend, I think Lori Shehu, who I interviewed on the gifts of autism, and have learned a lot from her, but you talk about, and I love this, is knowing what, you know, the child is here to do and what their interest is. You know, I look at, you know, the old school, and when I grew up, you know, I was always very good at English and being creative, but I sucked at math. And I was fortunate that I had parents who were like, we want you to give it your best, but like when it got too hard in math, my dad's like, just don't take it any longer, and knew that if I got a C, that was okay because I had done my best. But what a different world we live in if we would honor and encourage. If you were interested in science, just throwing science at you in 20 different ways. So talk a little bit about that.
I know. I would love that too. I felt like I was the kid that was always pulled out of resources, and you know, and I always felt like, okay, what's wrong with me? I'm just not. My eyes were always outside. They were never within the classroom. I had a very hard time focusing. I couldn't sit still very long. I was that kid. I understand what you're talking about. I think I can give you an example of my 4 kids. They are coming in knowing exactly what they need to do. I know what their interests are. And I know how to nurture that area. And what's really interesting, I just started the realms with Doreen Virtue, the realm readings. I don't know if you're familiar with them. But I'm incorporating that with the kids because I think once they understand where they're coming from, whether they're elemental, fairy, angels, wise ones, that comes into play with what their purpose is, along with knowing what they need to do in life. Not all of them are like that, but I think that helps a lot too in understanding them. So for example, my oldest one, she loves animals. She wants to heal animals. So I'm nurturing her in bringing home animal books, energy healings, what kind of variations you can do, like acupuncture, energy healing. There's different types of energy healings within that. So, and then another child of mine, Ella, she knows bugs and plants. I mean, I don't even know where this knowledge comes from, but she just knows it. So from that, I think, you know, for mothers, if you're having your children, you realize they're having these things that they wouldn't otherwise know, nurture that, and just give them books, get them whatever you can to help support that, and get them excited about it. They need to love and be joyful of what they want in life.
Oh, I think that's outstanding. Now, I'm curious if you have any thoughts, especially since you've got 4 kids, about nutrition or food. Have you noticed anything that maybe is changing, or that you're like, you know what? I mean, I'm thrilled that a lot of the awareness has increased around GMOs and people are standing up to that. But what are your thoughts if there's anything with, or even us or your kids, what are your thoughts on nutrition?
My thoughts are in nutrition. I'm learning through it too with my children because, boy, they like pastas and the junk food and the Oreos, and I totally get it. I totally get it, and I love that we're having an awareness of GMOs. That's hugely important. I feel like a lot of kids are very sensitive to the processing of our food, how it's harvested, how it's grown, what the seeds are, even the energy of the earth that it grows in. They are picking up on everything. But I also understand we live in the world that we do, and we're trying the best that we can. And I make smart choices, and I buy organic, and you just do the best you can with what you have. But we grow our own garden. but we have a good balance of, we have an Oreo once in a while. It's okay. So, for me, I'm still learning it, Julie, so that's where I am right now. So, but I know for the other kids who are even more sensitive than my kids, I think the most important thing would be to pray over any food that you have, any water that you have, and just do the best you can. Because it's going to change. There's people, at least here in Arizona, that are creating aquaponics. They're shifting the food industry and becoming more and more local farmers. They're selling and trading online now. So we have a huge food movement here in Arizona, which is wonderful. So, and I know we're not the only state doing it, so which is great.
Excellent. Well, my husband's to-do list is to make a garden for us.
Yeah.
We've had about 5,000 other things to do, but I'm pinning on Pinterest to get him ready, because that's one thing that I want to do, because I think for me the aha moment was the processed foods. I mean, I try not to eat gluten, but I'm not obsessive. I've done that before, but just be more aware. And I've been like, you know what? I feel better when I make my own food, even if it's the homemade pasta I make.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think, though, when you call on your angels to help you, Julie, they really start to deter you, and they turn you off on foods, too. You realize, I'm not craving that. That doesn't even make my body feel good. I can't do that anymore. And that's okay. And other days you really want something, and it's a balancing act, because you want to be happy, too. And I get it. I totally do. But the angels really do help guide us towards vegetables and fruits and tons of water. So
that's a great thought. Now, you had mentioned something earlier, and I'd like to explore this a little more, because you talk about some of the children that are coming in, and if I've misquoted, then please correct me, but as being light workers, so at night might be off doing other things, or holding light, or making changes that we're not aware of. So I love how you talked a little bit about your kids and doing protection and things like that. What advice, like nightmares, maybe it's related to a realm or something that's not going on here. Right. What do you say to parents? What are some things that they can do to help their kids in that area?
What I do I can only share what my husband and I do, because we do have one child out of our 4 that has that almost nightly. We have a couch in our bedroom, and we set it up with selenite crystals, and so she can come in anytime and fall asleep there. The selenite crystals are really good. They're angelic. And sometimes we just lay with her, and as a mother, I call on her spirit guides to calm things down for her, because I have to remind them sometimes, hey, I know she's got a job to do, but we also have her as a child here, and we need her to be ready for school in the morning. So we need to have a balance here, and I, as a mother, can ask for boundaries too for her. So, that's what we do to help support her. We keep our household very, even though my kids are loud and crazy, we keep the household we don't have television. We have, they are allowed to watch movies. They are movies that are somewhat calm. We keep the environment with soft music. We kind of keep our environment to where she's okay with it. And the rest of the kids are, they have that calmness that these kids need. So that's what we do to help, especially with the nightmares. I think bath times are really important. Essential oils help greatly with the feet. And, it's kind of like you have to feel out your child. You have to learn as you go. And I think a lot of mothers do that. And I know a lot of other mothers on Intuitive Mothers do this too. So you just have to share and see what works and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now talk a little bit, you also mentioned that I love that you view your children as teachers for you, which, I love that we are moving in that direction, because especially you think like Victorian times, kids would not be seen or heard, or, there was never this sense it was the adults up here and the kids are down here.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have such, if you really sit and you listen to these children, my mouth just drops daily because they say things that are such wonderful reminders and memories of what they hold in their past lives. I mean, my children, they know. They really know, and they just share, and they know what they need to change in this life to not repeat other things they've done in past lives. It's fun, and I recommend an adult to go sit down and sit with a child for at least 10 minutes and go talk to them and just listen. They would learn a lot.
I just spent at the beach a couple weeks ago, and so I'm very close. I'm the favorite auntie I have a 9-year-old niece, a 5-year-old niece, and a 8-year-old nephew. And I love, because they're so in the moment, they're so, my nephew, I've only met one other person. He loves life like it's nobody's business, and I've only met one other person, but he's always been like that, and that just everything's the best day ever, and just this joy that I'm like, we're not going to have to worry about you because you have been like that since you were a baby, and you carry that every day, and what a great thing that is to have.
And it's a great reminder to stay in the present, isn't it?
Oh, you have no choice. You have to.
You have to, and they keep you in that moment. I think that's why I love being in a classroom, because you're there at that moment, and they'll get upset for one moment, and then they're joyful and happy the next. So, and what a great environment.
And the power, I always believe that, the power to change your life and create the life that you want is in the present moment. And so many of us are stuck in anxiety or worry about the future or reliving the past again and again that's already happened. Right.
Or being fearful of what could happen next. So you have to have faith and trust. So, and that's not easy.
No, it can. I mean, as much work as I do on myself, I'm always like, okay, and I still need it, and I'm going kind of a crazy time in my life right now. Just okay, I'm going to trust in divine timing, trust the process, and realize I can't control everything as much as I'd like to. Is there maybe an exercise you could lead us in that you do for yourself, or that you do for your kids, or that you find that's beneficial, whether it's with intuition or anything that you found that people really enjoy?
Oh, well, I've got a fun, playful one. It's funny. When we walk around in our neighborhood, I have the kids guess what car's coming next, what color, and they usually get it. There's certain things like predicting before it happens. Those things they find with great. They're just so excited because they want to be the winner. You know how they are. So those kind of things. And then I think for me, as an adult and as a mother, taking that time for just calming the mind. I think oftentimes we think, oh, we have to sit down, we have to meditate, and I think if you have that time, by all means do it. But as a mother, it's not realistic, especially, as a mother of 4, it's not. When people say it, I go, you're just not a parent of 4. It doesn't work. So I think a wonderful technique is to wash dishes, clean the floor, because it's so mindless work, it literally knocks everything out, and you start being calm, and you get, at least for me, when I'm near water, I get messages constantly, and it really calms me down. My house is cleaner by the end of my messages, so what could be better? So
no, I love that. I also love how, sometimes in the spiritual community we can get like all serious and all about this is how it has to be, but you bring in playfulness, which I love, because I think we want to celebrate in our intuition and everything being playful.
Right. And there are things that are really icky, and I get that, and but I feel like my purpose is to bring joy and happiness, and to know that we're not alone, and to bring in more of that childlike aspect of we all have within us, and to have fun. Our lives are meant to be fun. I think, some of our life purposes, we were talking about this recently on Intuitive Mothers, about our life purpose, and and some of it is hard, but it can also be joyful, and I think it's a choice within you. And you have to find something that you love and to be happy with in your life. And you should always include childlike centeredness with it. That's how I feel.
Absolutely. Now, I'd like to ask this question a lot. There are a couple questions I'd like to ask. First, if someone was in a really struggling right now, whether they're going through divorce, just they're not in a good space, what advice would you have for them?
Are you talking about like the spiritual aspect of it and what they should do?
I'm talking about whatever you feel moved to talk about, but just someone who's just not in a good space, who might be listening and being like, wow, that sounds all nice and dandy, but reality's here. I've got a mortgage to pay. I'm stressed out and I'm overwhelmed.
Right. Well, I can share that. The best thing is to ask that question, why? Why did that happen? I would immediately go get a journal and start writing and asking that question, okay, why did this happen to me? What was it in my past choices that led me to where I am today? Why am I unhappy? Is it because of my partner? Is it because of me? And then you start going, constantly asking that why. Because the more you go deeper within yourself and you start writing this all down, you're going to realize why this happened and the lessons. We're all meant to fail. Every day we're failing. It's okay. We all do it. It's okay. But it's learning from, as our mistakes, we learn from it and we move on, and it sets us on the path that we need to be on. It kind of redirects us. And the more, and this is why intuition is so valuable, is the more we pay attention to our intuition, you're going to avoid those bad things happening to you, like you said, Julie, because you listen. So, and your life becomes more abundant in many, many other ways. So for me, I think journaling is a huge deal. I think that is the key thing. I think also finding a community of like-minded people helps too. Someone who's been through it too. And you can talk to them, that is someone you can trust. So That would be my advice.
Oh, wonderful. So is there anything else that you'd like to share or add that I have forgotten to ask you that you think is important for people to know on anything that you feel is important?
I really would like to just talk and share more about honoring our children's voices of today. I think they need to be heard. I think education needs to shift in a great way, in such a way that embraces this intuition. I think the faster that we're able to nurture intuition within ourselves and children, we're going to have a more peaceful world, a peaceful environment for all of us. And we're already shifting and rapidly changing that. More and more people are awakening. Every moment it seems like it just constantly gets bombarded, and that's a great sign, but it's also hard for a lot of people too to give up all those old ways that we once lived by. So I think the more that we start to focus on our future generations, the more that peace is going to come in quickly, faster for us. And I think we also need to honor the past, the people who are older than us and have lived and seen, and I think they need to just as equally have a voice so we don't repeat some, mistakes that we've made. But I think the most thing is I think we need to really highlight children right now. I think that's the key. So, yay, kids, I just want to sing up a sign and say, listen to our children. So, yeah, we'll get there. It'll come. So.
Well, and is people like you out there and becoming more visible, and it's happening. I don't know if we've reached the tipping point yet, but I'm with you. It's gonna sooner rather than later.
Right. I think a lot of people are, probably like me, scared to share who they truly are, and I get that, and it takes a lot of courage to do that, and I get it, and it takes time, and I get that. So, we'll get there, but if the faster we move for our children, they won't have to do this suffering within themselves and coming out, so to speak. So, and the more they're able to be nurtured, so they can just clean up our messes that we've made in the past and move on, have fun. So.
Excellent. Now, tell people your website, how they can find out more information about you, any upcoming classes, whatever you want to share of what you're doing.
Okay. Well, thank you. Currently I write on my blog, Intuitive Mothers, which is www.intuitivemothers.wordpress.com. I do a lot of work with our Facebook private. It is a private group, so if you find us, there is a like page, but there's also a private page, and you just have to ask to be a part of the group. I do only allow women only in that group because it's a very sacred group for women's voices, I feel. Sorry, guys, if there's nothing wrong with daddies or anything. For women, we need to have our own private time. I am currently about to self-publish a children's book that I channeled. Let's see, I channeled it in 2010, and I'm just now getting my courage to come up and just share it with the world. So, and it's a beautiful story meant for children to find their inner voice and to start speaking up and, hopefully getting them to say what they need to say and, share and create and do what they need to do for our world. And then I'm also a certified angel card reader through Doreen Virtue's classes that she offers, and I just recently become a realm reader, so that's brand new. So, and then we'll see. I haven't yet decided on workshops yet. I'm waiting to see what the universe wants me to do next, so I'll keep you posted.
Now, if you want, if it's private, we won't, but you had posted about something, there was someone you really admired, and I just think this would be a great example if you're comfortable talking about it, because you had posted, should I, whatever, and there were a couple of us, because I remember it was Saturday night and my husband was working, you're like, oh, should I go? And we're like, yes, 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 and that turned out, do you want to share that?
Sure, I'd love to. Are you talking about
the great story of listening to your intuition, but synchronicity and how supportive the Intuitive Mothers group is?
Yes. Well, are you talking specifically about James von Prague?
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. This is pretty fun. One person had posted that James von Prague just said the name, and I went, well, is he in town? And my friend said, yeah, he's at this such and such bookstore, and he was literally a 2-minute drive from my house. And I thought, well, it starts at 6:30, and it was like 6:20, and I thought, oh, I'll post it on Intuitive Mothers. Do you think I should go? Because I had 3 of my kids with me, and I thought, no, I don't need to go. I'll have the kids with me. But everyone was so supportive on Intuitive Mothers, and I thought, okay, maybe I should go. And I wound up going, because usually these book signings, they take forever. There's tons of people. I walked in, and there was less than 50 people. And I walked in, and one of my friends was sitting in the front row, and the 2 front rows were empty. And he called, he's on the microphone, James von Prague. He said, come on down, children. And I went, oh, okay. So we walked on down, and he went into messages for myself and another lady who's a medium. I wish I could remember her name, but I don't. She started with me on giving me intuitive messages from my grandmothers, and then James von Prague added to it, and it was just the way it was set up. I was almost embarrassed, Julie, because I felt like that whole thing was about myself and my children. I was really, we had taken up all that time of the other people, and I felt really badly, but it was just so incredible how it lined up, and then we were done, and that was it. So, and then he signed the books, and James von Prague is, in my opinion, a wonderful leader. So, and he was so great to the children. So, yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool.
Well, I just love that story because you went, should I, and we're like, yeah, go for it. So, and then it ended up being the right thing for you to do.
I know, and from a person who practiced intuition, I was totally questioning it. So, and that's what we should not do. We should just go for it. So.
Yeah, but I talked about that earlier. We all do that, and that's okay.
Yeah,
but
it is.
But have the support, that helps.
It helps greatly because you know it's okay. You know, you just need that little push, and we all do. So.
Right. I want to thank you so much, Tamara, for joining us, and it's nice to meet face-to-face after only connecting on Facebook. And I want to remind everyone, if you want to connect with her, it's intuitivemothers.wordpress.com. And with Google, I'm sure you'll be able to find her. And I want to thank everyone for watching today, and please check out my YouTube channel, Julie Caraccio, and you can see this again, because I know I always have to watch everything twice because I miss everything while I'm interviewing someone, and find out lots of good other stuff on there. And we'll see you all back here very soon. Thanks. Bye now.